Hello and welcome to your astrological vibrations for Saturday, July 20th, 2024 by Gaia Blooming. I'm Mimi and our energy mantra for today is, I take time to nurture that which is important to me. And hello, I am here on the weekend because we have a shifty weekend. We have Mars moving into Gemini. Now it's interesting, today, the day before Mars shifted into Gemini, we had, was it like a Microsoft meltdown happening? We are in our Mercury retrograde. But here's the thing with astrology. The borders of time and energy aren't always so cut and dry to me. And even though technically today is the day when Mars moves into Gemini, we may have been getting a little shenanigan-y with it. Now, to be fair, Mars is just coming out of a conjunction with Uranus, and we have Uranus and Mercury building into a square, so there's a lot of things that could have fed into the shenanigans. But it's so interesting to see the chaos that happens when technology doesn't run right. That's hard to say. So, Mars in Gemini. Gemini is a sign that represents technology, among other things, communication, the mind. And with Mars in Gemini, are things going to go a little haywire? I mean, we're going to have a Mercury retrograde, so it's definitely possible for a little bit more haywire. But I think what we need to watch is our own mental states going haywire. Mars in Gemini can run the hamster wheels for sure. And so we want to take time with Mars and Gemini to make sure our inner hamsters get a break. We want to not end up here, these cards, when it comes to the mind, the burden and guilt. Those are both strong mind cards. So it's going to be important to take time to ground in. It's going to be important to take time to mind dump. Sometimes journaling is the best thing for that, because otherwise your hamsters are going to get tired, and when the hamsters get tired, they make up stories. I think my hamsters are tired and making up stories for you. But it's true. You know, the brain doesn't work as wonderfully when it's tired, right? When it's exhausted, when it's overworked. So watch for that in this transit. Another thing to watch, if you remember just a few months ago, we had so much Gemini. And one of the big things I mentioned is, you know, you don't have to believe everything that you hear. Mars wants to take action. And so Mars is ready to take action based on what it thinks it knows and what it hears. And being that the entire transit of Mars in Gemini, we will have Neptune still at that 29th degree, almost the entire thing. And that final placement of Pisces has so much illusion, especially as Neptune's retrograde. And just, I feel like the world right now is on the brink of like the straw that broke the camel's back. But so much of this brink is based on what we think about what's happening, what media is telling us about what is happening. And I think with Mars and Gemini, it's a beautiful time to notice and listen, but like think for yourself. Think for yourself. Notice for yourself. Look for yourself, which still kind of looks dumpster fiery, I gotta say. But there are so many agendas out there. It's really good to get in alignment with your own personal agenda. What is your agenda? What is your mental agenda for the world? With Mars and Gemini, you can move in accordance with that, right? Or you can, you know, be someone else's monkey. You know, dance, monkey dance. Or, like, are you gonna find your sovereignty in and through this transit? I think it's going to be an interesting transit because we will have it squaring Neptune, we will have it squaring Saturn, we will have it conjunct Jupiter at some point. There's going to be lots of opportunity for some mind melting with this astro energy. Again, let me remind you, give your hamsters a break. Now besides this energy today, which Mars in Gemini will be at 0, so it's an interesting thing. Are you going to feel like the song that I'm hearing is The Flight of the Bumblebee? And is it going to be like that, like instant action, or are you going to be in the 0 for a little while? I think it's going to depend. I think it's going to depend on your relationship with Gemini. You may find yourself all aflutter, all abuzz today. Mars is not moving into Gemini until 1:43 p.m. and before that, it does meet with Neptune, a sextile with Neptune. It's like the ultimate lazy cat morning. I have to say today with Mars at 29 degrees, I felt like a sloth. Like I could only move at sloth speed, which was very slow for me. So we may have some more of that before it shifts, but even after it shifts, it's going to be at that 0 energy. Now, we are also building to the full moon. The full moon's happening at 3:17 a.m. Pacific time on Sunday morning. So I feel like, gosh, I just feel like we're going to be like tired and wired and have moments of like Flight of the Bumblebee and the moments of the like, ugh, kind of energy. We're also building, like I said, to that Mercury-Uranus square, which can drive technology, your nervous system, your mind, all a little bit haywire. So be aware of these energies coming on in. I am going to be doing another scope for this full moon in Capricorn, but I will remind you over these next few days, like double down on self-care, double down on nurturing yourself. And remember, with the full moon in Capricorn, you get to decide. And if something's not working for you, you can decide, like, it is time for this to shift. So keep that in mind with all the racing thoughts. So like I said, we do have these, the burden and guilt card. And this is where Mars can drive your mind. This is where your hamsters can run you to if you are not taking sovereignty of your mind. I laughed when this card came out, silence. I think that we're going to find ourselves more communicative with Mars and Gemini, but I think that words will be more likely to start fights at this time too. I think people are going to be more sensitive to words and more sensitive to, that's not what I think, that's not what I believe. Sometimes silence is golden. Learn the discernment. When is it time to speak up and when is it time to like silence, right? The silence though too, this is a card of bright future. This is a beautiful card. And Mars and Gemini reminds us we get to create. And you can use that Mars action, passion, energy to create worlds. Create flowering. Now, to be fair, this card was in reverse. So we're not quite there yet, but do keep that in mind. The final card that I love is the Nothingness card, which is a card of pure potentiality. It's a card, it's a card of divine mind, divine law, maybe better than divine mind, and it's a reminder of that pure potentiality that you get to create. And I think it goes very nicely with the silence card, right? Like, what do you want? What kind of world do you want? And recognize in any given moment you get to feed your mental energy into the building of it. And I think that's really important to remember with Mars and Jupiter hanging out in Gemini. Mars will be there until about, I think, September 4th. So potent times to utilize your mind. So that's it for today. You can book a reading. Email me, mimiclark@gmail.com. And the better it gets, the better it gets. There's more than enough love in the world for you. You have the power. And remember who you are, for you are the solution. Namaste.